what is the department's target outcome in the negotiations on this issue? Is it to retain the two-pillar system entirely, or is it to achieve partial ring fencing within the umbrella fund?
The target here is to essentially to secure adequate EU funding, ring-fence funding. That has been the target from the start in terms of the overall outcome. So we want to make sure that we have adequate EU funding across the board and that it's ring-fenced from a CAP point of view. That we keep, in overall sense, a fairly simple and workable system for farmers if we can in overall sense. That we have flexibility for ourselves, I think, at member state level in terms of scheme design, and that we get that balance that I mentioned between economic, environmental and social sustainability.
Oh, that's grand. What is the government's position on potentially supporting an increased EU CAP budget, which would allow for properly funded Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 schemes?
Well, as I said, we want to try and make sure that we have adequate EU funding. So we want to maximise CAP funding within the overall discussions. The amount of CAP funding and the amount of funding for all of the various headings in the MFF will obviously be decided in the context of those negotiations over the next year or more. And we want to secure the maximum possible funding from a CAP point of view. In terms of the ring fencing that you mentioned, there is an element of ring fencing in the proposal. It's not quite as we would have asked for in terms of having it separate for CAP, but there is a ring fencing element to the proposal, and we want to explore further what exactly that will mean in terms of the overall outcome for us.
Livestock numbers have fallen year on, as you all know here in Ireland. Some processing companies, particularly those involved in the meat sector, are turning down orders because they cannot guarantee supply. How does the department intend to support productive agriculture here post 2028?
In terms of supporting agriculture, the key here for us, I think, is to be able to maintain the full toolbox of measures that we have within the current CAP and within the current CAP strategic plan. As you know, the range of measures that we have covers direct income support, it covers agri-environment, it covers a range of areas, on-farm investment. And we want to be able to maintain that toolbox to the maximum extent that we can and to have flexibility at member state level so that we can deploy that toolbox as effectively as we need to in accordance with our national circumstances.
And can you guarantee us, the farmers, that the livestock numbers won't fall again further than what they fall? Because 5 years ago you were telling us it wouldn't happen. And look what's after happened in the last 5 years.
Well, here today, Deputy, I can't guarantee anything in terms of where livestock numbers might go. I mean, our livestock numbers are falling in any event as part of kind of a reprofiling, I think, even on the surplus side, where you've seen numbers falling in any event. I don't know where that's going to go in the future, but from the department's point of view and from the minister's point of view, we want to be able to put in place the kind of measures that are necessary to support the ongoing development of the sector and to make sure that it's competitive and sustainable in the long term.
Has the department estimated the likely financial impact on Irish farmers and the Exchequer should the CAP plans proceed in 2028?
We are looking at precisely at those potential implications right now, Deputy. We have, as I mentioned, there is a decrease in the overall allocation that we've seen so far in terms of Ireland's allocation under the CAP for the period post-27. Yeah. So we're looking at an 8.16 billion allocation within the current proposal compared to 10.7 billion as it was in the current MFF from 21 to 27. Now, it's not a straightforward comparison because there are some elements that are within the NRPP structure and within the CAP structure, so we have to tease out how that's going to work in the longer term. But from our point of view, we want to try and maximise the funding, obviously, and we want to try and make sure that in the negotiation around that compatibility, or the complementarity between CAP and the NRP, that we get the best possible outcome for ourselves. So whether that's through the ring-fenced CAP funding or whether it's through the use of additional funds from the NRP to go into CAP, we'll be exploring every possible opportunity for ourselves in terms of increasing the allocation and being able to support the sector more effectively in the future.
Would you be able to confirm to me which EU member states most closely align with the views of the Irish government and how the department is coordinating with them to oppose this single fund model? I think that's fierce important. Would you be able to answer that to me?
I think it's probably fair to say that almost all member states have concerns and questions around the proposal that's there around the MFF, and particularly around this idea of integrating now the CAP into that bigger NRP framework, that more global NRP framework. There's a lot of concern across a large number of member states, including ourselves, around how that is going to work in practice. What does it mean in terms of funding across the various measures? What does it mean in terms of implementation? How do we govern that? What are the different rules that might apply depending on the mix of CAP funding and NRP funding? So there could be different conditionality rules, there could be different co-financing rates. So I think that the concern is felt across most member states, and most member states would also have the view that that anything that's related to the CAP should be dealt with within the CAP regulation to the maximum extent possible, and within the Agri-Fish Council. So I think. So
are you really saying to me in a nutshell then that most countries will support us then? time up.
Well, I think, as I say, it's the start of a process right now, but I think at this point where member states have given their views on the proposals, it's clear that they all have concerns around the structure that's proposed, or the vast majority of them have concerns. There's a range of questions that people have in relation to how this might work in practice.
I do.
And I think from our point of view, we are coordinating with other member states. We're engaging with other member states through the various working groups that are looking at the proposals in Brussels at the moment, and the Minister's doing the same at council level and with his counterparts. So we're continuing to engage with people on that, and I think that engagement has shown the fact that there is a lot of common reaction among member states to what's been proposed.
Thanks. My time's up. Thank you.